Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You are tuned in to AMTV Live, Alternative Media Television. It is July 2nd, 2013. I posted a video earlier this morning, Obama engineering Zimmerman race war. Obama engineering Zimmerman race war. This is no joke, folks. The President of the United States is clearly engineering and launching a race war in America. And pretty interesting, we've got the George Zimmerman trial, and I want to get into a little bit of this today. We've got pictures of Zimmerman. This is from CNN Opinion. Can Zimmerman win over the jurors? Let's go here to the screen share. I want you guys to take a look at this. Here you see George Zimmerman. Is it just me, or is Georgie put on a little weight? He's looking a little fatty in the face, and I also noticed that his representation also had him shave. So he's lost the Latino/Hispanic mustache that he once had. And this story is pretty interesting. It says trial lawyers use an expression, you can't unring a bell after a jury is exposed to something damaging, even if a judge commands people to disregard that something. The harm is done once the words have been uttered. George Zimmerman may be wishing that several ringing bells sounded in his attorney's opening statement last week could be unrung, beginning with a now infamous joke. After a streamlined prosecution opening in which a wrapped courtroom was told of efforts to resuscitate Trayvon Martin's lifeless form, and heard a straightforward argument that Zimmerman shot Martin because he wanted to, not because he had to. Zimmerman's attorney, Don West, chose to open his defense by telling a joke. Now, our loyal listeners are going to have to bear with me a little bit today. My voice is very hoarse. I've been losing it a little bit the past few days. Very hyper-allergic to these forest fires that are still raging through the valley and have tragically cost the lives of 19 firefighters not too far from Phoenix in Yarnell. Absolute tragedy. So if I have to put up with a little bit of voice problems today, that's fine with me. So please bear with me. But what I am seeing clearly is that because the president has no other options left. I mean, he has emblazoned scandal after scandal, whether or not this is IRS, this is Benghazi, this is the potential killing of journalists like Michael Hastings of BuzzFeed, who was about to break a major story, contacted WikiLeaks attorney before he was killed tragically in a fiery car crash where his engine explodes out of the front end mysteriously, even though that never happens, and there's very rarely been an account of it. He had emailed friends saying, hey, I'm working on something big. I know the FBI is following me. The president has no other options left but to create some kind of division here in the United States. We talk about this all the time. It's very much the divide and conquer mentality here in America. Keep the groundlings busy, keep them fighting each other. Get the black people angry at the white people, get the white people angry at the black people. And that's very much what we have today. And President Barack Obama, in my opinion, is a racist. And I'm going to put out a video on this in a moment after today's live broadcast. President Barack Obama is a racist. And I can say that. And in my opinion, he became a racist the day he likened Trayvon Martin as his son. And I want to show you this, and I want to read this to you, and I'm going to even play the video to see if this works here. This is from the Washington Post. And again, this came out months ago. This was March 23rd, 2012. Let me go to the screen share, and I want to play these words to you. So hopefully you could hear that. Let me know if for some reason you couldn't, but I'll say it for you as well. He says, quote, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. Now, why would the President of the United States, somebody that supposedly believes in liberty and freedom and, the constitutionality of America, incriminate somebody before the trial had even begun? Put the guilty verdict and the stamp of guilty right on George Zimmerman's face. Why would he do that? Why would he liken Trayvon Martin as if it was his own son? And I remember posting a lot of videos on this. I've posted dozens on the George Zimmerman Trayvon Martin scandal. And they've been and have been some of the most divisive videos I think I'd ever put out. But we were right on target. I told you this was about creating division in the United States. This was about creating and engineering a race war. And it's exactly what it's done. Notice how other stories in the news have been heavily racially profiled, pun intended. We have Paula Deen of the Food Network. She's been all over the news for supposedly dropping the N-word. I don't even think that story would be in the mainstream news if it wasn't the agenda of the Obama administration and the people that are in charge of his business, in his day-to-day business, destroying the United States of America. I don't even think that these would be stories. But this trial is clearly meant to divide and conquer all Americans and to bring and use the race card to the best of President Barack Obama's ability. And I said this day one when he made these comments, what a son of a bitch he was for incriminating George Zimmerman. What an anti-constitutional scumbag for going ahead and incriminating somebody before he had his day in court, before he could be in front of a jury, the facts could be looked at, the evidence could be weighed. So this man, this person you see here, let's go back to that again. I want you to take a deep, hard look at your president of America. This is a lying scumbag, POS, and he is a racist, in my opinion, on all accounts. Pretty darn disgusting. Notice how, and here's another article from ABC News, says George Zimmerman judge strikes cop's statement that Zimmerman not lying. So they actually get someone testifying on the stand. The cop says, in his opinion, this is coming from a police officer, whether or not you believe police officers or not anymore is totally up to you. But he says that Zimmerman isn't lying, was not lying. And the judge strikes that from the official transcript from the courtroom. Says prosecutors in the George Zimmerman trial today asked the judge to strike a comment made by their own witness who had told the court that he did not believe Zimmerman was lying when he described his fatal fight with teenager Trayvon Martin. The testimony by Sanford, Florida investigator Chris Serino on Monday seemed to bolster the credibility of Zimmerman's claim that he shot Martin in self-defense because the teenager was banging his head into the sidewalk. In commenting on the consistency of Zimmerman's story, as well as Zimmerman's apparent relief when falsely told there was a video of the confrontation, Serino said Zimmerman had to be either a pathological liar or telling the truth. And these are quotes. Says, if we were to take a pathological liar off the table, this is coming from the attorney, do you think he was telling the truth? Asked the defense, Mark O'Mara. Yes, responded Serino. So he says, yes, I believe George Zimmerman is telling the truth. And that is stripped by the judge. And so I'm seeing a lot of this, and here's another picture of Zimmerman here looking a little bit fatty-faced. He must be overeating Twinkies, probably with all the pressure that he's been under. You can see the picture here. George Zimmerman gets all-female jury. Isn't this interesting? That they would orchestrate an all-female jury. Females typically are going to be a lot more emotional creatures. People might call me sexist for saying that, but it really is true. I believe men and women are different, and I think women are better at certain things than men, and men are better than women in certain things. I think we should be proud of our sexes, that we are defined a little bit differently. It doesn't mean that we're not equal by any means. But you see here, George Zimmerman gets an all-female jury. An all-female jury has been selected for the murder trial of George Zimmerman, the Florida man charged with second-degree murder and the killing of unarmed teenager Trayvon Martin. So definitely playing the emotional card. Let's get a bunch of chicks on the stand here. We don't want a single guy that actually might say, what, Zimmerman was defending himself here. Let the guy go. We don't care that someone died necessarily. Yes, it's a tragedy, but get him out of here. I mean, the facts are the facts. When you're defending yourself and your head's being banged into the concrete and your nose is bloody and you've got claw marks in the back of your skull because a African-American man, not a boy like the mainstream media wants to pitch it, was on top of you, beating the shit out of you, men actually might say, you better get out of here, better throw this trial out. It's not to say the women won't come to the same conclusion, but it is all too telling to see how this case is being orchestrated for a George Zimmerman conviction. I mean, everything is being stacked against him at this very given point in time. I want to thank everybody for joining us to the live stream today. We're starting to do regular AMTV live broadcasts. I'm working with a hoarse voice today, so please put up with me. Very, very damning what I'm seeing with this George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case. Here's a picture you don't see. Here's a picture the mainstream media never shows. Here's George Zimmerman. Does this look like George Zimmerman was just casually taking a walk in the park and just decided to get really aggressive like the big bad wolf and, just blow away Trayvon Martin for sport? Does it look like he had a vendetta to prove? I mean, I never really, at least I haven't seen it. Let me know if you have. I don't see this image in the mainstream media at all. I mean, this to me looks like a bloody, all-out, violent confrontation that probably resulted in some kind of act of self-defense. I mean, the only way it'd be worse if, maybe we, had a brick or a knife sticking out of his foot or something. And that still wouldn't be incriminating enough. Here's another picture that I've seen a little bit, but infrequently in the mainstream media. Again, they don't want to show you the real truth. Here's the back of his head. You can see the claw marks. You can see the deep wounds, the blood trickling back on the back part of his skull. Here's some more photos. Again, very bloody images you can see here. This was right after the attack had happened. Remember how these didn't come out at first, how this was all orchestrated to portray Trayvon Martin as this, really clean-cut, childlike kid who was just taken advantage of for going on a Skittle run. He was just moseying around town with his Skittles and iced tea when a racist, George Zimmerman, approached him with a gat. Bam, 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 is what the mainstream media and how they pitched this narrative. Of course, by all accounts, Trayvon Martin really comes across as a loser kid. I mean, what a loser. I'm going to get into the details in a moment. Historical troublemaker, accused of beating up a bus driver, looting and stealing shit from people, had been expelled and suspended some 3 times for graffiti and other shenanigans. His pictures of himself on the internet, smoking what it looks like to be marijuana, tweeting out, gun, gang-related, signage and those kinds of things. I'm going to go over here in a moment. But again, all we see, all that we're pitched by the mainstream media are these goody two-shoe photos. You can see here, this was on the Drudge Report front page when Obama came out with his, famous quote, now living in infamy, "If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon." I remember Jamie Foxx, wasn't he, at some award ceremony, and Hollywood had to really get behind this, put the hoodie on, make it a big, African American versus white thing, even though again George Zimmerman isn't white. So it just goes to show you the power of the mainstream media. I mean, you can be Hispanic, and they can make you what? They could make me black if they wanted to. They'd be like, Christopher Green is an African American. Take a look at him. And people would see my white face but believe the mainstream media. Go, yeah, he's black. Yeah, totally looks like a black guy, obviously. So, they can pretty much just, turn and paint any kind of picture or narrative that they want to. And we really don't get the truth. Here's another one of the angelic photos that the mainstream media had to, show us continually, showing him like he's a little boy. Of course, this picture was dated, years prior. But it's to make it look like it's a defenseless child. A little defenseless child with a pack of Skittles and iced tea who just happened to be on top of George Zimmerman. That's corroborating eyewitness accounts. Here we go to another lovely picture of Trayvon, giving the middle finger, the big F-U sign to the American people. Like, yeah, go F yourself. This is the little casual boy that, supposedly was like coming from church or something, flipping off the camera, posting this kind of stuff on his Facebook account. Beating up bus drivers, graffitiing his school, smoking pot, doing drugs, burglarizing people, stealing necklaces and watches. This is the angel right here. This is what America is all up in arms about. And I literally saw this on the mainstream news last night over dinner where they're doing reenactments. I can't remember if this was like CNN or ABC, and they had African American commentators and Caucasian commentators and people of all races kind of reenacting what they thought happened. And it was interesting, the volume wasn't even on my TV, but there was an African American lady basically reenacting how she saw it, in her opinion. And basically, you could just see through her body language, she shows herself holding a gun, standing over Trayvon, emptying out the barrel of the gun multiple times. That's how she saw it. Then the Caucasians giving it a totally different take. Again, it's almost like no one's even paying attention to the hard evidence or the facts anymore. It's just kind of totally blown out of proportion, like the O.J. Simpson trial, or any other kind of major league drama. Kind of like a Hollywood film. And again, you never see these photos. The mainstream media never plays this photo. They never give you the middle finger Trayvon. Here's another one, another middle finger shot. He really likes telling the world to go F itself on a regular basis. This is the nice kid that was on top of George Zimmerman, according to an eyewitness account. That's corroborating evidence in a court of law. That is not my opinion. This is the nice kid. And this is what a lot of people are saying is going to result in race riots, because look, even though O.J. Simpson was guilty, and that's pretty apparent to almost bumbling idiots, I mean, you must not have a brain if you thought that guy was innocent. Running from the cops in his white Bronco, blood trail all over the place, his reenactment of not being able to fit the glove on. And then take a look where he is now, jail. Obviously, a loser, a scumbag, was guilty from the very beginning, a murderer. But they made it out to be about race, which is what got him off. And then, of course, launched, Kim Kardashian. They can thank their father for that. That's launched them into mainstream appeal, so they were able to, ride their father's heels on that. So pretty incredible. So again, you never see these photos. You never see this played in the mainstream media at all. You can look here. I'm going to go back to the screen share. We've got a few more photos here. Let me go back, make sure this is working on both our ends. Okay, looks like we're getting some funny boxes here. This is from Mail Online. It says Trayvon suspended 3 times for drugs, truancy, graffiti, and carrying burglary tool. And did he attack a bus driver too? New picture emerges of victim as parents claimed it's all smear. So the parents are claiming this is a smear job, but these are just the facts. Trayvon Martin was suspended from school 3 times. He was on suspension when he was shot in February. So he was actually on suspension when he was shot, after officials caught him with a marijuana pipe and a baggie of drug residue. He was kicked out of school in October for graffiti after he was allegedly caught with a burglary device and a bag full of women's jewelry. He was also suspended once for skipping school and tardiness, a little lesser offense. But his tearful parents say that their son is now the victim of a smear campaign, clearly guided by racism in America by a white Caucasian named George Zimmerman that happens to not be white. New poll shows 73%. This was backdated March 2012. 73% of Americans think Zimmerman should be arrested. And of course, that was the big, rip roar when the initial story broke, is that Zimmerman wasn't arrested immediately and hung right in a public square. Because again, there is no trial anymore. President Barack Obama, if he sees your child and says, you know what, the child looks like one of mine, he could be my son, the American people are just looking for a good lynching. They're not going to go ahead and, lynch, politicians or, corrupt Wall Street bankers, but they'll lynch you without a trial, much like they did Christopher Dorner up in Big Bear not too long ago. Trayvon Martin was suspended from school 3 times in the months before he was shot dead by a neighborhood watchman. It emerged today. That's referring to Zimmerman as the watchman. This was revealed in a leaked report at the time, painting a much different picture of a teenager who frequently found himself in trouble with authorities. It was also revealed that he might have attacked a bus driver, according to a Twitter account that is claimed to belong to the teen. The Miami Herald claimed in October he was caught with a burglary tool, a flathead screwdriver, and 12 pieces of women's jewelry. Martin insisted, of course, that they didn't belong to him. Earlier, he had been suspended for skipping school and showing up late to class. And most recently, in February, he was suspended again when officials found a marijuana pipe and an empty baggie with traces of the drug. The claims are likely to be seized by supporters of George Zimmerman, et cetera, et cetera. This article goes on and on. Of course, being pitched as a smear campaign, but this is just the truth. I don't care what Reverend Jesse Jackson or any of these people want to convey. to the American people. This is what we are dealing with. Eyewitness describes Trayvon Martin's fatal struggle to Florida jury. This is, a recent testimony. A witness in the murder trial of neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman testified on Friday that he saw Trayvon Martin on top of Zimmerman, during a struggle that led to the unarmed black teenager's shooting death in a Central Florida gated community last year. Jonathan Good, a former resident at the townhouse complex, told the jury in Seminole County Criminal Court that he never saw Martin slam Zimmerman's head into the concrete sidewalk, undermining a key element in Zimmerman's defense. So this is one of the first people to testify, says that, and corroborating that Trayvon Martin was on top of George Zimmerman, but in his opinion, he didn't see a banging of the head. Well, I go back to, this picture here. If you can see this, and the screen shares actually working. I go back to this picture. Does this look like a minor altercation to you? Does this look like just, a brief skirmish where Zimmerman's chasing down the African-American kid to put a bullet, in his skull? Or does this look like a violent confrontation? That's what it looks like to me. So, the point I'm trying to make here is that this is very much being crafted by the Obama administration to divide and conquer the American people. Again, when the right hand's doing one thing, pay attention to what the left hand is doing. As Obama's dividing America with the right hand, pay attention to his scandals on the left hand. He doesn't want you to pay attention to the latest NSA leak by Snowden, which I'm going to get into in a minute. They don't want you to pay attention to the IRS scandal. They don't want you to pay attention to Benghazi Gate, the death of Christopher Stevens and the cover-up of the CIA liaison who was transferring weapons of war to Syria and members of the LIFG, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and arming al-Qaeda to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. They don't want you to focus on the fact that President Barack Obama bypassed the War Powers Resolution Act of 1973 to invade Libya and assassinate Muammar Gaddafi, one of the wealthiest people on the planet who was moving off the U.S. dollar reserve currency. They don't want you to look at that. They just don't want you to look at anything that's happening. Don't look at any of these people that suddenly, these journalists that happen to be dying. Don't look at the wiretapping at the Associated Press of dozens and dozens of journalists. Don't look at any of it. Just focus on the trial, focus on racism in America, and let's break this out into a boiling point so that we get an all-out war and racial-generated riots in the street, which would very easily service the Obama agenda. This is what we're dealing with. I'm going to take a quick break, make sure everything's working on our end. I'll be right back. I'm Christopher Green, hard-hitting it in your face. This is Alternative Media Television Live. Everybody stay tuned. Hey everybody, we are back on the air, just making sure our live feed with American Freedom Radio is working properly. Of course, we're also broadcasting live via Google Hangout, live on YouTube today. Hope you're enjoying the show. Welcome to the show. I'm going to go to some comments, answer some questions here in a minute. It's, of course, July 2nd, 2013. So, the big theme of today's show is just take your eye off the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case for a moment and wake up and smell the coffee of what's really going on in the world. Now, Glenn Greenwald came out today, said new bombshell is coming. Of course, he was the awesome investigative journalist that first broke the Snowden leak. He says another big national security agency scoop is coming soon, Glenn Greenwald said on Tuesday. Just wait a little bit. You'll have it. End quote, he says. The Guardian journalist who broke the NSA surveillance story said on Fox and Friends. Although Greenwald wouldn't reveal exactly what the new revelations are, he said that the world will be, quote, shocked. That the world will be, quote, shocked. I will say that there are vast programs, both domestic and international spying, that the world will be shocked to learn about, that the NSA is engaged in with no democratic accountability, and that what's driving our reporting, and that is what is driving our reporting, according to Greenwald. He also said President Barack Obama's administration is using leaker Edward Snowden as an example to prevent future whistleblowers from coming forward. I think that what the Obama administration wants, and has been trying to establish for the last almost 5 years now with the unprecedented war on whistleblowers that is waging, and to make it so that everyone is petrified of coming forward with information about what our political officials are doing in the dark that is deceitful, illegal, or corrupt. Well, I couldn't have said it any better myself. He added that the administration doesn't even care about Snowden anymore. They don't care about Edward Snowden at this point. He can no longer do anything that he hasn't already done. What they care about is making an extremely negative example out of him to intimidate future whistleblowers from coming forward because they think that they'll end up like him. So they're very much looking to make Edward Snowden an example, which I think is fairly obvious. Of course, they don't want the American people thinking that they can actually leak the truth. They want to set the precedent that if you do leak the truth, well, you'll be sent to Gitmo. They'll cut your head off, send you to jail indefinitely, and then maybe even potentially kill you, like Michael Hastings. We're looking into that story. So if they set that precedent, and they set the precedent that you're in Nazi Germany, it'll prevent a lot of Americans from actually, saying anything. That way they maintain total control and order in this totalitarian society that has pretty much been overrun by technology and has totally taken over every facet of our life. In U.S. news, Snowden withdraws Russian asylum bid. Putin says, and I found this kind of interesting, said he must stop harming U.S. interests. NSA leaker Edward Snowden withdrew a request for political asylum in Russia. Let me go ahead and show you this. After President Vladimir Putin said he should stop harming our American partners, a government spokesman said on Tuesday. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesman, told Reuters that Snowden was in the transit area of Moscow's airport and had not crossed through passport control onto Russian territory. Snowden left the U.S. for Hong Kong before he allegedly leaked details of U.S. surveillance programs and was charged with espionage. He traveled to Moscow 8 days ago. On Monday, Putin said Snowden could stay in Russia on one condition. Bum, bum, bum. Quote, he must stop his work aimed at harming our American partners. As strange as that sounds, coming from my lips. End quote, he tells reporters in Moscow. Quote, he must choose a country of destination and go there. Unfortunately, I don't know when this will happen. Putin said Russia was not working with Snowden, but also did not plan to give him to the United States. This is really interesting in the fact that, Vladimir Putin is saying one thing, but does he really care about United States interests? Of course not. Russia is an ally with China. They're warming up for World War III in Syria right now. Again, take your eye off the ball about what's really going on. What the real agenda is: geopolitical conflict, war, absolute total destruction of the United States, the collapse of our financial markets, and, let's focus on the race war. Is what Obama and the mainstream media are pitching to you right now. So pretty interesting that Vladimir Putin is saying one thing, but really kind of, in my opinion, means something entirely different. This is from the Christian Science Monitor. Snowden waits in Moscow as asylum rejections pile up. So there was a list here. Here are where the outright rejections have been coming from. Again, he's been applying, for asylum around the world. Brazil has outright rejected him. Finland rejection, India rejection, Poland rejection. Willing in principle, Venezuela is willing in principle. Whether or not Snowden says he would like to go there or not is up to him. It says also on Tuesday, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said Snowden had not applied for asylum in that country, although he added the world community should support the former CIA contractor's work, exposing the imperialist elite of the United States. They spy on friend and foe. He told reporters after a gas exporters conference in Russia. They have created a semi-Orwellian system, very much the 1984 scenario. We still haven't had a decision from Bolivia, China, Cuba, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Ireland, Netherlands, Nicaragua, Russia, Switzerland. And again, the latest report, Snowden has withdrawn his asylum application from Russia. So where will Snowden end up? Where will Waldo end up? Could it possibly Venezuela? Or will he just be outright killed before he can go anywhere? The world is waiting, and maybe the world has already moved on. I mean, look, Kim K just had a baby. We're really focused on her losing her baby weight. There's a lot to talk about in the baby's name, Northwest, what kind of baby this is going to be, whether or not it'll be feeding on the left tit or the right tit of Kim K, how this will impact her, social media strategy and the reality TV show. These are all things that I'm sure, her family are very concerned about now. Of course, will be blasted all across MTV. In fact, maybe we could even just take a Facebook poll on this right now. What do you think, left tit of Kim K or right tit? Which does the baby prefer? And can we actually get a group photo of Kanye on one and the baby on the other? Kanye himself, he kind of looks like a baby, and a little bit to me. One of the things I did see in mainstream pop culture, which I rarely do, was Kanye running into a sign with his forehead. He's acting all cool, walking with Kim before they had the kid. He's got paparazzi all around him, and he runs face first, full frontal attack right into his face. That's hard hitting and in your face, America. So that I did find pretty funny. Also, things people aren't talking about because, hey, the mainstream media has an agenda to push right now and, has a clear intention to, create racial tension in the United States. China joining Russia for the largest naval drills with foreign partner. Exercises are intended to deepen cooperation between militaries, says Chinese Army chief. China will join Russia later this week for its largest ever naval drills with a foreign partner, underlying deepening ties between the former Cold War rivals along with Beijing's desire for closer links with regional militaries. So isn't this groovy? Perfect timing right before the war with Syria leading into Iran, because of course Syria as a gateway to Iran. That's why President Barack Obama has been engaged in these shenanigans for some time. It's why there was a cover-up called Benghazi Gate. It's why Christopher Stevens was killed. It's why it happened on September 11th, because again, this wasn't a random act of violence. It had nothing to do with a PR film released, Innocence of Muslims. That guy, I believe, is still sitting in jail. That was just all propaganda to cover up what the Obama administration has been doing. In fact, we posted something kind of cool here on Facebook today. I encourage you to check it out. Make sure to head over to our Facebook page regularly. We got a lot of great content. I had a link sent to me by a very loyal AMTV subscriber, and I'll read part of this to you. I thought was really interesting. This is getting quite a few shares. Let me go check this out. It says, a loyal subscriber sent this email. Did you hear? And Bob says, did you hear about the Obama administration scandal? Jim says, you mean the Mexican gun running? No, the other one, Bob says. Oh, you mean the SEAL Team 6 extortion? Oh, no, the other one. You mean the State Department lying about Benghazi? Oh, no, the other one. You mean the voter fraud? No, not that one. You mean this military not getting their votes counted? No, not the other one. You mean that 3 or 4 of Obama's gay boyfriends were mysteriously murdered when they came forward with claims he was gay too? No, the other one. You mean the president demoralizing and breaking down the military? You mean the Boston bombing? The NSA monitoring our phone calls, emails, and everything else? You mean the president wanting to kill Americans with drones in our own country without the benefit of the law? Giving 123 Technologies $300 million, and right after it declared bankruptcy, it was sold to the Chinese? You mean the president arming the Muslim Brotherhood, the IRS targeting conservatives, the Department of Justice spying on the press, giving Solyndra $500 million, and right after they declared bankruptcy 3 months later, the Chinese bought it? The NSA monitoring our phone calls, emails, and everything else? The president's ordering the release of nearly 10,000 illegal immigrants from jails and prisons and falsely blaming the sequester? The president's threat to impose gun control by executive order in order to bypass Congress, the president's repeated violation of the law requiring him to submit a budget no later than the first Monday in February, the 2012 vote where 115% of all registered voters in some countries voted 100% for Obama, the president's unconstitutional recess appointments in an attempt to circumvent the Senate's advise and consent rule, the State Department's interfering with an inspector general investigation on departmental sexual misconduct, HHS employees being given insider information on Medicare Advantage, Clinton, the IRS, Clapper, Holder, all lying to Congress. I give up, Jim says. Oh, wait, I think you got it. You mean that 65 million low information voters stuck us again with the most corrupt administration in American history? And Bob says, yeah, that's the one. Mark Twain once said, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. Let me actually show you here the Facebook page so you guys can check this out for yourself. We've had 153 shares on it already. So please get this out. I mean, I've lost track. I'm sure you've lost track. And in fact, when I talk scandal, many of you probably don't know which one. That's kind of the first question. Well, what scandal are you talking about? There's literally been too many to count. So we're waiting on where Snowden will end up. We're waiting to see what happens with the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman trial. It's just pretty unbelievable to me that that's where the focus has been. Also, I mentioned earlier in today's broadcast, one of the reasons my voice is so hoarse today is I'm hyper allergic for some reason to these forest fires that have actually, from what I read last night, are still 0% contained. I don't know if they've made any headway on this in recent hours. In fact, I should probably check ArizonaCentral.com, which is our local news station. But, just talking on and on, doing a tribute to the firefighters. These guys were 30 and younger families, young guys, just really tragic. Says several hailed from firefighting families. One joined team after his mother's cancer death. 2 others were cousins. At least 3 of them had babies on the way. So this fire has just been raging out of control up north, and you can just see the ash and the soot in the Arizona sky. And if you're like me, who's kind of allergic to this thing, you'll be kind of wheezing and coughing and almost having little minor asthma attacks through the day. Again, a small price to pay tribute for these heroes that are, trying to protect people's homes and to make sure that this thing isn't totally out of control. We had another very kind of interesting report in Science and Technology today. It says, could an Italian scientist pave the way for human head transplants? In fact, this was reported, will be reported in the latest AMTV News edition coming after this live broadcast. Let me show you this article here. This was by U.S. News. Now, see, this is fantastic. You see the image of the skull. You see the guy, the very important doctor figure. That's how they make themselves look important. You put the white coat on. Even if you're not a real doctor, just wear a white coat and get your name embroidered, right on the top of the left chest, and you'll just kind of come off Bernie Madoff style like you're a doctor, even though you might not be one. But see, these face transplants and also human head transplants can be very effective. That way, a guy like President Barack Obama or George W. Bush can just trade a face and continually be president of the United States, and you won't really know it's the same person that's actually staying in power pretty much into infinity. It says, what sounds like a science fiction novel come to life. One scientist says he is close to being able to affix one person's head to another human body. Italian scientist Sergio Canavero believes he has come up with an outline to successfully complete the first human head transplant in history, which could lead to solutions for those suffering from muscular dystrophy or tetraplegics with widespread organ failure. Kind of interesting, we've got a company called Alcor here in the Valley, in fact, not too far from, the Scottsdale area. In fact, I believe they're actually located in Scottsdale. Famous baseball player, I believe it was Ted Williams, has been frozen there cryogenically. He believes that later in life, nanobots will reconstruct his organ and, vital tissues and, turn his body back on. But It's really interesting if you do some research into this. You actually get a really good discount. It's kind of a sweet selling point. If you choose not to opt for the full body encapsulation, you'll actually get a really healthy discount if you just have your head cut off after your death and they just submerge your head cryogenically. I don't know if this necessarily ties in to Dr. Eduardo Rodriguez's face slash human head transplant possibility. Also in the news today, Vatican confirms Catholic priest was killed in Syria. A Syrian Roman Catholic. See how this is heating up? See, again, focus on everything else. Don't focus on Syria. Focus on Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, racial tensions in America, Reverend Jesse Jackson, President Barack Obama likening Trayvon Martin to as is his own son. So think about that for a minute. So we know Trayvon Martin was allegedly beating up bus drivers. He was, stealing shit from other people that, wasn't his. He's tweeting, gang-related signs, etc., on the internet. Banging people's heads on sidewalks, blooding the faces of others, getting suspended, 3 times plus at school. That's who Obama equates what it'd be like if he had a son, which actually sounds about right. A loser. So, loser president, loser son. Lying scumbag criminal, lying scumbag criminal. Just kind of goes, hand in hand. And what's interesting about it, it is almost self-defeating. It is a losing battle. I actually have zero confidence in the American people that they'll actually be able to decipher that this is a racially engineered event. And that is way over the top of mainstream America. So they're not going to go with that at all. They're going to chomp at the bit, and they're going to fall right into the trap of a race war. So we're going to get, Rodney King style riots potentially, tears coming down the face. Can't we all just get along? So I can just see it, playing out. Obama's going to come to the rescue. And all of this will be occurring. All of these race riots and tensions within the U.S. itself will be occurring during a fresh invasion of Syria. Bombs will be dropped. The drones will be, striking small, villager children just, trying to read and write for the day. It'll be an all-out war, an all-out confrontation while we've got some kind of, mainline drama occurring here in the States, one which Obama can take the credit for. Again, this is the last card President Barack Obama can play, the race card. And it's exactly why he's playing it, as his term is, slowly coming to an end. And who knows, maybe he'll be reelected for a third term. He's had the tendency to throw the Constitution, shred it apart, and just flush it down the toilet from the beginning. So, hey, I say, why even elect Hillary? Why even have elections? I think he should just elect himself. And obviously I'm being facetious, but you can see how this is, this is almost what things are gravitating to. I'm going to take a quick break here, and then I'm going to go to your comments and questions. I'm going to pull up those links. If you got a question or comment you'd like to ask me, I will get to it in just a couple minutes. I'm Christopher Green, AMTV Live. We will be right back. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. We are back live on air, Alternative Media Television, July 2nd, 2013. We're going live to the comment stream, and I've got a loading little clock that's ticking back and forth. It appears to be working. It's, kind of mesmerizing a little bit, trying to load your comments and questions so that I can go to them. And I want to know what you think. Hopefully Google will actually provide these comments in a minute, but I want to know what you think. I mean, what do you see with this trial, with the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case? Maybe there's things even that, I'm not seeing that you're seeing. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. What do you think the direction and what is the ultimate end result of all this? What is the outcome? Is it a race riot in America? Does this strengthen and embolden President Barack Obama's position among the American people? Does it help his cause? Does it help his ratings? Does it help to coalesce, black support, African American support around Obama, which he's been losing terribly? Because, again, if you look at the statistics, quality of life for African Americans and Caucasians and pretty much everybody in America has been on a steady decline economically since he's been elected. It's gotten worse. Inflation has, overtaken and reared its ugly head. We're in a worse off debt situation than we were prior. Home prices are, even though they've rebounded, are still grossly lower than they were pre-2008. And of course, all this ties into the economy and our economic worries, of which the stock market has been yo-yoing the past few days. Stocks in lower in a choppy session. Egypt weighs. There's another article out today that says car sales on a roll, but the economy not so much. We've got the Dow just shy of 15,000. I also think it's a good opportunity, and I'm not giving investment advice, just an opinion, but I actually think it's been a nice, healthy correction that we've had in gold. To me, at $12.42 an ounce, this is starting to look more and more attractive, on a daily basis. And again, to me, gold is one of those things that you should just be a part of every prudent investor's portfolio. It's just like, building any kind of investment situation long term. It's a way to hedge against all of these risks that are taking place right now. 0% interest rates, quantitative easing to infinity, 1, 2, 3, Operation Twist, the gigantic debt load here in the United States. So to me, just opinion only. Again, I'm not an investment advisor anymore. I'm not in that business, but starts to look a lot more attractive at these levels. And again, just take a look at the long-term historical trend lines on this thing. It has outperformed, dollars repeatedly because it has really no other direction to go. When the system itself and the dollar is constantly being devalued. We go back here. We are still loading for comments, so I don't know if we're having issues at YouTube. I've tried loading it with multiple browsers. I don't quite see you there. In fact, maybe I can even find comments on one of our websites here. Maybe that will work better at greenwave.com. If you happen to be in that chat room, let's see if that works. All right. Also, just want to thank everybody again. Thank you for your continuous support as we work through the kinks of some of this technology. It's my goal to get this all up and running, take this to the next level over the next couple of weeks. Continue to deliver the hard-hitting content to our viewers on a daily basis. I really appreciate again all the support. We've got some very hard-hitting videos coming up in the not-too-distant future. I pretty much go off on Obama today, so stay tuned for that. It's an epic rant. We've got an AMTV news report by Topher Morrison coming up. Please share it. Get it out everywhere. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, CGreen34, please do so. Visit us on Facebook. Like us. Share our content. Follow me on Twitter. And get it out to the viewing public. Hard-hitting it in your face. I'm Christopher Green. I'm out. Peace.